All right. It's 11:30. I mean, it's 11:03. So I just assume we start and we can fill in everyone else. So good morning. My name is Kevin Bronson. I am the Communications and Legislative Director at DDS. And this is the ARPA DDS Engagement Transformation Committee meeting. My co-chair is Princess. I'll let her introduce herself, and then I guess we'll just, small group, but we'll just kind of go around the room and do some formal introductions. So, and maybe, I don't know if you want to explain something about yourself or up to you. So, Princess, go for it.
Alrighty, so I'm Princess Russell Raynor. Been with DDS since 2004, and I was previously in resource management. Currently, I'm a private case manager under the Self-Determination Division. And enough about me.
We'll go, Dawn, do you want to go next?
Yes, so I'm Dawn DiMatteo, mom of a 30-year-old DDS individual who is actually now and has been in a group home for the last 5 or 6 years. So I've been extremely involved since actually, well, he's been in DDS forever, but I really got involved as an advocate about, I want to say 9 or 10 years ago when he was on the waiting list, and we had to get people moved off the waiting list into group homes and services. So that's where I am, a parent.
Thanks, Dawn. I guess I'll go to Wayne next.
Hi, I'm Wayne Seidel. I'm the Director of Case Management in Central Office and happy to be part of this group. Thank you.
And then the Claudine, I believe you were next.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all. Claudine Testani. I'm the Program Manager for Licensing Division that oversees CLA and CCH.
And I believe, Peter, you were next to join. I'm just going on order of people that joined, so.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Peter Mason, formerly the Deputy Commissioner, brought back as a retiree overseeing the American Rescue Plan Act initiative.
Marina.
Hey, good morning. Marina Derman. I'm a parent of 2 young men with autism and IDD. I'm a former special education advocate. I sit on my town's Commission on People with Disabilities, and I'm active in also various DDS committees as well. Glad to be here.
Thanks. And Shannon.
Good morning. My name is Shannon McCormick. I'm the Executive Director of the Down Syndrome Association of Connecticut, and I have a son who has Down syndrome who is 24.
Well, thank you everyone for introductions. The next item on our agenda is the goals and responsibilities. So I'm not going to actually cover everything, but it's everything's listed on our website. I can drop the link in our chat, but basically the focus of our committee is to improve communication throughout our agency, but specifically message the transformational changes that are going to be happening through ARPA specifically. So that's what our big focus is on. Princess and myself were, I guess you could say, appointed, elected, I don't know what you want to call us, volunteered to be chairs of this committee. And we met earlier. We met a couple times prior to this, and that's one of the reasons why we're starting a little later than a few other committees, because a lot of our focus was on trying to get some data and making sure these working groups. This committee was more of a working committee rather than just let's get together and chat sort of thing. So I would expect a lot of emails and stuff going back and forth in between our meetings. There's a lot of stuff as communications director. There's a lot of stuff that I'm going to probably have to send out in the interim in between our meetings. On the topic that we're working on. That's not to say that I won't keep everyone in the loop, but it's something that, you know, maybe the idea of the communicate something that has gone out, we can look at and say maybe it should be tweaked message wise or something that should be slightly different, right? Or it was good or whatnot. So and then the other thing I want to mention is that these are public meetings. And they're, as you can see at the top, they're recorded. So just be aware that that these meetings will be recorded and posted on the website for members of the public to see. We're dealing with federal dollars and how we're spending those dollars. So it's important to make sure that the public is aware of what we're doing. And with that, because they're public meetings, we need to, it's really tedious and annoying, but I'm a big stickler on it, so I will ask you if you don't do this. But every time you talk, you should be introducing yourself, starting now. I don't think I did it immediately myself, but it's just Kevin Bronson, DDS, and then you can go into your thing. The thought is that we're trying to make these meetings fully accessible, and people that are listening might not know that Kevin Bronson is saying something. They don't see the little square that bounces around, so it's just easier for people to understand your viewpoint expressed. So just try your best you can. I'm gonna leave it there. Princess, did I miss anything?
Nope, not from what I'm telling my end here.
Okay. And then Kevin Bronson again. So I'm going to go into topic 1. So DDS, it's number 3A, review DDS communication survey. So Princess and myself got together again. The idea is that we want to have a working meeting. So one of the big things that we wanted was to have data to work off of, right? So we know that there's issues, or there might not be issues, right, with the way that management is communicating to DDS staff. So we wanted to find out that information. So one of the things is what we did was we produced a survey, asked a few questions. I'll let Princess explain a little bit more about the survey, but the survey results close tomorrow. So the plan, and we have a data analyst in our agency that's going to take all the results from the survey, analyze them, put them into a presentation, and the goal is to present at our next meeting. So, Princess, I guess you can explain more.
Okay, no problem. So yes, we decided that a survey would be a really good opportunity for us to get some feedback from our internal stakeholders on, you know, any feedback that they would want to share with us in regards to how the communication is going internally, kind of what things are working, what's not working, and what they would hope to see come down to you know, help us to know kind of what things we need to be improving. Working on the survey was also confidential. As Kevin said, you know, once it's closes and it's completed, it's going to be analyzed and reviewed. We'll discuss it too as a committee as well. And I think down the line, is it did you say there was a consultant that was supposed to be working on that to get us the data, the outcome? We did get quite a good amount of feedback too. I think it was a really good turnout for folks providing feedback internally. So we were really excited about that. But we just felt that it would be very helpful to have that information come from our internal stakeholders to give us a good idea of, direction and what we need to work on additionally for folks getting communication out there.
And this is Kevin Bronson again. And Princess, can you just highlight, I think, mention like who we reached out to and stuff like that? I just for the.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So we reached out to case managers, resource managers, some nursing division and clinical staff, and we did add another section too, in case there were other folks that should have been included internally. So those are the folks that are core folks that would be receiving our communications from ARPA.
So, and Kevin Bronson again, I think the idea is the goal with all of this is just so we could be sitting here working off of data, right? You know, we can all assume something, right? I'm the communications director. Princess works as a case manager.
Yes.
I almost said resource manager. In that sort of stuff, and like we all have our differing opinions from different places, but we figured it'd be a great data so we can look at it as a committee, right? And use that data to maybe look at how we structure our meetings going forward. So and then I guess I am gonna stop. I will stop for everyone to talk, but I just figured I'd get all this boring stuff out of the way. And then the meeting schedule, and then I guess that's that. The meeting schedule going forward, pretty straightforward and simple. We're gonna try to do this every 3 weeks. We posted the one change. I want to say thank you to Yana who pointed it out to me yesterday. And Yana, I'll let you introduce yourself in a second because we did introductions. Is October 5th is Yom Kippur, so we're going to we shifted that to October 4th in the morning or at this time, so it wouldn't conflict with the Jewish holidays. And with that, Yana, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Yana. I'm a self-advocate coordinator with DDS.
Thank you, Yana.
Shannon, I know you. You were in my partner's class.
And then we figured every 3 weeks. Kevin Bronson again. I'll get this. Kevin Bronson, DDS. We figured that 3 weeks would be a good, just based off of busy schedules. 3 weeks would be a good rate to meet, and we could just have working stuff in between. So I guess I'm going to stop for air, and if people have questions about that before we start talking about maybe ideas of what we want to look at going forward.
This is Peter Mason. I just want to say thank you guys for getting this together. The idea here is to make sure we have, with this initiative, we wanted to make sure that we communicate this to everybody in a way that reaches all the different sectors. And so we have an individual and family engagement committee that's looking at how to engage with individuals and families on this. And this committee here is how do we engage with the DDS staff. We have such a variety of staff, and they're all over the place that, the idea is to make sure that we communicate with everybody as to what we're doing, why we're doing it, and the different pieces to it. And while that may sound easier than it is, I think, the survey of what we're putting together is critical because we really haven't had a good mechanism for how to communicate to all our staff. For example, we're just now, and this is how far the state's behind, we're just now trying to get all our staff to have state email addresses. They haven't had that before. And so, the communication had to go out to supervisors who've had to then send it to their staff you know, if we could have a mechanism that we can get it to everybody, that would be much more efficient. And we know that the message that's getting out there is being consistent. So, the idea for here was, how do we communicate in a way that's consistent, but also make sure that it's addressing the various levels of DDS, so that everybody understands this. I mean, this is supposed to be the department's big initiative to transform a system, and everybody has to understand why we're doing this, how we're doing this, and, you know, making sure that everybody is all rowing in the same direction. So that's the idea for behind this.
Kevin Bronson, thank you, Peter. Any other questions, comments? Princess, do you want to say anything? Or Marina? Sorry.
Yeah, Marina Derman. Questions. I'm just curious about the survey itself. So did you get, so I understand that you surveyed, you know, DDS staff at various levels. Is this a sample? Did you do a sort of a curated sample of DDS staff? Did you survey everyone in sort of more like a referendum of all of DDS staff of those titles that you selected? Have you gotten, do you know what your response rate was? I mean, just curious about how that was structured.
Yeah, Kevin Bronson. So yeah, we the plan was, and I'm going based off of the last time I looked at it, right? Because it closes today. So, and you'll get everything that you asked for, you'll have access to, right? But we asked this. It was basically everyone that was a case manager, resource manager, or nursing staff. They were broken down by their specific type, right? If they were a ICF or a self-determination, or what type of case manager they were. And then we identified those people, we identified that, so people selected that off, and then there were questions basically about the quality and consistency of communication, right? From top down, and where are the issues, if there are any issues, right? The response rate, I would, from someone who comes from, you know, I come from a different background than this, so just like a click rate, open rate for emails. I think we're doing very great. Just the last response rate, I think we're probably in the 30% of responses based off of the larger group. So that's fairly good, with just thinking about people opening up the email, then clicking through the email, then actually filling out the survey. So, what's nice about that though is it's like, I would say it's about 30% based off of all of them. So it's not just, we're not just getting all case managers. It's a good spread of the population. I don't know, Marina, I don't know if that answers your question directly.
It's Marina again. Yeah, it does. In my past life, I was sort of a data wonk and survey person, so I'm very curious about all of this. And so I'll be interested to see all of those things. The response rate in sort of the consumer world, 30% is terrific, but obviously you want, as you said, spread across all groups. And if you didn't get great response in one group or another, you know, what is your plan to get a better response? Can you go back to one group and say, oh my gosh, none of the nurses responded well. Can I go back for a second wave and push that to try to get more information? Or, you know, what are the plans to make sure you get a really robust answer? So these are good data.
Yeah, Kevin Bronson again. Yeah, I fully agree with you, everything. There's, and I can, it's hard to share the survey. I'll share it with everyone once it's completed, right? But it had all of those, you know, we had the you know, the questions, and then there's where you can expand, and we have, and that's the benefit, and you'll see this in the next meeting. That's the nice thing about our agency, is we have this business intelligence unit where we actually have like a data analyst who's going to take all of the information, code it, and then write us a data story and get all those, that source. So we'll know how many percentage of how many type of resource managers actually responded to that survey. So we'll know if we hit that 30% mark or not, and if we do need to go back or whatever. So
And
I don't
also
know,
too,
most of the stuff, I don't know that yet, but we will all know that come probably our next meeting. And then if, I guess, and I would say is if we think as a group that we need to go back and poll more people, I think that's a great idea, right?
Yes, this is Princess, case manager at DDS. I agree. We actually had Wayne, who's the director of case management, also reach out to the divisions, included all the stakeholders that were included in the survey as well too. So we had on several levels reach out. I know also to case manager supervisors and other division heads are also reaching out internally to make sure and encourage folks to also provide their feedback, because it is very vital that we have that information. So we're right on board with you too, to make sure that we're actually getting a good response, a good number. But we're glad that we have somebody else that is also a guru with data and that kind of stuff too, and surveys and that kind of stuff, Marina. So that would be very helpful for us too. So appreciate that feedback. But yes, we're continuously asking for feedback, continuously asking folks if they haven't to respond and let us know. So hopefully that was the last number too, Kevin. When was that? 30%. That was like early on, maybe a couple.
I'm Kevin Bronson. I'm taking a wild guess of 30% just based off of the survey. It's like, I think the numbers, I don't know. I think we had like maybe close to 200 respondents, and I want to say we're probably at the 500 mark of about 500 staff people. So I'm guessing, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not a math. I didn't major in math, so I apologize. So, any other questions, comments?
Wayne, do you have anything? I'm sorry, this is Princess, DDS case manager. Wayne, did you have anything to share about the survey from your end at all, or?
Wayne Seidel, DDS. So I don't, other than, I know that it was sent out to all of DDS or all of those. It was sent out to all case managers, resource managers, and I'm not sure how you were able to reach out to the nurses. I know that when I sent a refresh on it last week, and at that point, I think we only had about 94 responses. And so I'm glad that resend out there sounds like it bumped it up and doubled the numbers. I did send it to all case managers. That includes supervisors and then the resource administrators for each region, so that they could send it out to their resource managers with a little more of a personal kick there. And I also included our director of nursing as well. And so I'm not sure where it went from there. So, to Marina's point, I am curious as to how it's going to break out. 30% of case managers, 20% of the available resource managers, 10% of the nurses. And I'm just saying, if it were to play out like that, then we have to make a determination, like what's next? Do we resend it out to nurses just to make sure that we're getting their feedback? Because typically what happens is, I've sent out surveys to all of case managers before. I'm impressed by the numbers that I'm hearing, because I never get that kind of response, especially with some of these optional surveys. And usually those that respond, a small percent of them are the people that are really happy about the things that you're doing, and they want to let you know about it. And that's always good to hear. And then the larger percent is usually those that are really unhappy, and you want to hear their feedback as well. And then there's that whole group in the middle that's ambivalent, and usually they don't take the time to do a survey typically. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what you get back. I think this is an very important topic, especially, if we're really thinking about how our messaging needs to be there's a lot of things going on with ARPA, with our ARPA initiatives. It's a lot, and our staff is already doing a lot. So you're competing and trying to make sure that all of this great information that they're going to need to know gets to them in the most efficient way, so that they can utilize it and continue to share that information. So it's important. This survey is going to give us a lot of good information to help the work of this group. So.
Hey, so it's Marina with one more question again. Was this survey anonymized, or is it clear who had sent it back? And is there any potential that people felt hesitant to say something that was critical?
Kevin Bronson. So they had the ability. The survey is quote unquote confidential, and it said it at the top of it. But if they did want to put their information at the end of it, they were able to. The questions that were required were only the ones that were the simple, like, the yes, no, liker type questions, those sorts of things. And the questions that were, I actually just pulled it up. The questions that were, where you actually like wrote in a response, those were not required. We got, I was wrong. So we have 151 respondents. I thought it was closer to 200, but it was 151 respondents, and about a third of those respondents, about half of those respondents actually filled out the optional questions, like expanded on like, that sort of stuff. We only surveyed case managers, resource managers, and nursing staff because it seemed like that was after, Princess and I discussed this, and it seemed like those were the groups that we should probably reach out to specifically for this, right? But if our committee, what we wanted to do is make sure we had something to talk about during this first meeting, right? And not just do icebreakers. So if the idea is that the committee thinks we should maybe, after this response, if this survey comes out, we should maybe push it out to a bigger group, change it a little way, whatever. I think, that all options are open. I think it's just the idea of, I like to have a working meeting, right? So I hope that answers your question. Or did it not? I don't.
Oh, it did.
Marina. Okay. Yeah, Kevin Bronson again. I was hesitant to share the whole survey with everyone until I'd rather wait until we got all the results, because that's what more people are interested in anyways. So. Anything else from anyone? Princess?
Nope. We were just reviewing we did the meeting schedule. The next on the agenda, 3C, is future topics of discussion, unless anybody else has any questions, feedback, anything to share.
Yeah, Kevin Bronson, I would just, does anyone have, based off of the conversation that we just had, is there any topics for future discussion? I guess, and I plan on leaving that as our last agenda item, literally at every meeting, right? So we can think about what we want to talk about next. Our plan, right, is to review this survey at our next meeting, but that doesn't take up the entire meeting. So is there something else that we want to, maybe bring up or discuss?
This is Dawn DiMatteo. Quick question. For communication at this time, how does DDS communicate with, I know you mentioned that they're going to be getting state email addresses. How do you communicate at this point with your employees? Is it done through communication to supervisors and managers and then trickles down to employees, which, you take the chance that maybe it doesn't ever get to them? Just curious to see what the process is right now.
Sure. Kevin Bronson, DDS. Dawn, I completely forgot to cover that. That's probably a very important thing to talk about, right? So a lot of our communications typically come, they're mostly obviously top down, right? So we put stuff out, and please, Princess and Wayne, correct me if I leave something out, please add to it. But because I'm generally speaking new at DDS, I've only been here for about a year and a half. So we send, we have communications go through the commissioner. Commissioner has these Friday messages. Every Friday, he writes a little missive to the staff, which gets sent out to all staff that have email addresses, right? Sometimes it's just some lighthearted information, some stuff. Sometimes it's actually pertinent information. But most of that's in the commissioner will send stuff out. We'll send stuff out to all staff emails. Like I might send stuff out, deputy, whatever. Well, that information goes out that way. When we send stuff out to, I know it's not related, but I'll just mention it. When we send stuff out to providers, the providers, it goes through a separate email blast. And so basically it's mostly email address. It's mostly emails, flyers on the wall. It's like if Wayne, which, you know, if people actually see it going into the offices now, it's mostly like, will the case manager open up Kevin Bronson's email or will they open up Wayne Seidel's email, right? Who to them, who does that feel that gets them more information, right? And that's kind of what we're trying to find out with this survey. And that's one of the questions, right? Like,
Yep.
out of these 7 things that we do, what do you actually see, right? Some people say all of them. Some people don't see any of them, right? And that's, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Mhm.
Okay.
So I can add to, this is Princess, DDS case manager. So we typically, just like Kevin said, receive email communications from our commissioner. A lot of the times he will also introduce any types of initiatives that he wants us to be aware of. We also get those emails from Kevin as well as our communications director. We also get those emails too in follow-up from Wayne Seidel, who is our case management director as well. So the information comes out multiple times. Wayne obviously knows what case managers need to know. So he puts the case management spin on it for highlights and things we need to focus on and those kind of things. That's where our initial core information comes out about initiatives or things that we need to know, any reminders or updates or anything going on with information that comes out. That information gets dispersed. Usually it's through email, and that information also includes director heads, which then disseminate that information through their managers too as well, down to the teams. And so, for example, in case management division, Wayne would then send that information to include a blast that has all case managers statewide. And then the regional case manager, supervisors, and folks will disseminate that information to their teams. And so what happens is we talk about those things at our team meetings. We have questions and those kind of things. Wayne would then follow up and solicit any type of feedback, concerns, issues, and then those would go back through our supervisors to Wayne, and then they would address anything, you know, that needs any improvement, any follow-up, any clarifications that way. So what we did find out from the survey too, from what I read, was that folks really feel like a lot of the ways that we communicate right now is working. Some of the things that would probably need improvement would be probably timing, consistent information, being able to access the information afterwards. You know, everybody's super busy. We got a lot of information, a lot of updates that we need to keep in mind. So one of the things that we are also focusing on is how we can access that information after it comes out. So, you know, I get this information on ARPA and it was like, what did Wayne say about ARPA again? I want to know about that survey. I missed it. Where can I find the survey, or where can I find this information? Make sure that's accessible to people. And that's with all information. So that's kind of a gist of how the information comes down. A little bit of some of the feedback was really positive feedback that we received about how communication is now, which me as a case manager, I feel like communication comes through very well. You know, Wayne does an excellent job. The commissioner puts it out there. They have active links that you can click onto to get right to the information as well. So you can store it and follow up with it however you need to, but also to Wayne, sorry, not Wayne, Kevin as the communication director is also working on making sure that we can access that information through our DDS website, our intranet, and those kinds of things. So it's not just receiving the information, but also being able to access the information in the future, making sure the information is consistent, updates are timely. You know, we need the information obviously to do our jobs and to communicate to folks and keep other folks informed, you know, our teams, our cases, our families, and those kind of things. So I think the feedback so far has been that it's been working. There's been some there definitely needs to be some improvement. So we're waiting to hear the final, you know, tally on that and all the details on that, because we'll have to put it in context. And so we'll come back to the committee too, so that you guys are fully informed as well, and really talk about, you know, what we need to improve, what we need to work on, how to go about doing that. So that'll be the fun part, where we really actually have the working meeting and really talk about what needs to be done. So I'm hoping that answers some of the question as far as how we receive our communications internally. And also for, like Kevin mentioned, for the folks that don't have emails, inside, you know, there's also message boards. You know, supervisors also print out information and pass it around. There's also, you know, so there's other ways for folks who don't have email to get information, access information, and be able to, you know, follow up as well. But that's one of the areas that we found that needs improvement, which is what Peter spoke to earlier, that we're actively working on too, I think, as a department. So, but we do our best to make sure everybody gets it. As far as ARPA is concerned, though, it's most of those folks do have email and are able to access the information that we communicate internally.
Thank you.
This is Kevin Bronson. Shannon, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Shannon McCormick, DS Act. Do you ever do anything like all hands meetings, voicemail broadcasts, any other channels? It sounds like email is really the backbone. But you also have people who don't have email access. So I'm curious about whether there's whether you go beyond departmental meetings, whether there's, you know, everybody at once to talk.
Kevin Bronson at DDS. So yes and no. So technically, the DDS stakeholder updates, I don't know if you remember last year, the Commissioner Chef did Seeds of Change. There's one coming out in like the next day or so that I literally am in the process of writing the email right now. But we're doing like those, the Commissioner Chef is he likes to make sure that all of our stakeholders get the same information. So that's why he's really adamant about giving everyone the same update at the same time. So I'm sure Wayne probably can maybe answer more specific to an all staff thing, but at like the all agency level, that's an all agency level thing. And one thing to add is that it's, you know, I should also mention, me being the communications director, I don't really, I want to hear what everyone has to say. You know, it's extremely important. I'm new here, so I think, you know, the opinions and the opinions and from people and individuals like you are important, because it helps me understand the system better. I'll honestly, I just recently realized about resource management, that our resource managers actually existed about a month and a half ago. So I probably shouldn't be admitting that in an open public meeting that's recorded, but whatever. So anyways, Wayne.
No, I just wanted, Wayne Side LDDS. I just wanted to, I think one thing that's important as we're talking about staff with no emails, to really clarify who those staff are, because, and also clarify the fact that those being polled, nurses, resource management, case management, who are typically the staff that receive things like the ARPA initiatives and then put those things into action or get that message out. They're conduits for our system in a lot of ways, and they are not part of that group that doesn't have email access. I just wanted to clarify that. So I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, Kevin, but I'm assuming that by those without email access, you're referencing, you know, direct care staff or, you know,
Yes.
DDS, CLA supervisor. Okay.
Yeah, Kevin. Yes, direct care staff. Yes.
Thank you for that clarification.
Princess DDS case manager. Thank you for clarifying that, Wayne. We want to make sure that that is abundantly clear. It's only for folks that people who don't have access to emails are the folks that work directly with our individuals on the public end of things. But anybody any staff person or stakeholder that is to put our plans into action and get communication out there and implement these plans they all have email, they all have access to our direct communication, direct line of communication. So
thank you.
make sure I got it this
DDS,
way.
Wayneside LDDS. So another, I'll get the hang of this, right? I'll get in the habit of this. Another thing to consider for future topics of discussion, back to our agenda, is just that, identifying who are the communication groups that we're targeting, and then identifying what ARPA initiatives we want to target and ensure that information gets to them in whatever ways. And it may and it should include, in my opinion, a multitude of ways, so that one isn't hearing about something only from an email. They're hearing about it repeatedly and in different ways. And you have to be thoughtful and strategic about that, because our resource managers, nurses, case managers are receiving a plethora of information every single day, and in addition to doing everything else that they're doing. So you have to be really, we as a group have to be really thoughtful about who, what, where, and when, and all of those, and why, like all of those things. So as far as future topics of discussion, the identification of who, and then what is being shared, how, where, when, all of those things, and just being thoughtful and strategic about it.
Princess, the DDS case manager here. I did want to point out too that one of the questions in the survey, and again, we'll find out more on that, but one of the questions to folks was, how do they receive their communication? What types of communication, from whom would they open it? More than likely, right? So a lot of folks definitely open messages from the commissioner. His messages are well received, and folks really like hearing from the commissioner. A lot of our case managers and resource managers open up Wayne's emails as well. You'd like to know Wayne. And so it's always very useful information. It always gets straight to the point. We appreciate the highlights from all of that information, because it is a lot of information, and Wayne is absolutely right. Coming from resource management myself, and overseeing 13 private agencies and having hundreds of people within the agencies, you're receiving communication on every single person daily, on any given day. So you're receiving all this information, and you have to make sure that you're on top of the information, that the information is current, that and accurate, because you're also a information resource to providers, to case managers, to nurses, and those kind of things that reach out to resource managers and case managers. So that's one of the things that we are focused to on as this on this committee, is the what and the why and the how much information and to who, to make sure that that information is useful, it's effective, and it's not bogged down and too convoluted. So that's one of the things I know as a case manager and from resource management too, that I would appreciate. That would be helpful. So, but I did want to let you guys know that that was also included in the survey too. So we'll get some feedback on that from folks as well.
So it's Marina, another question. I don't know if it was in scope or out of scope on this survey, but is the technical platform of this part of that? Like I think I know that, or it's no surprise that families are extraordinarily frustrated by the email system when they have to communicate with DDS, because it kicks you off and it makes you redo your password every single time, and then it erases your emails, and then it won't let you forward or reply all. And I'm sure none of you have not heard that story, but I don't know if that's also a frustration internally for you all. And if that was in scope on the survey, is that also a topic? And if it wasn't, should it be?
Kevin Bronson, DDS. So no, fortunately, it's not an issue internally, or it's not that big of an issue internally.
System. You stuck us with the bad system. Thanks about
well, it's because we're within the system, right? So we're within the bubble, but once you exit the bubble, good luck, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I shouldn't be saying this, but yeah. No, trust me, I understand the frustrations. I hear it all the time, but this new system, theoretically, and Wayne probably can speak better to it than I can, but theoretically, because he's been working on it a little more than I have, should be better. But I think that, I think that thing probably should be, or I'm sure the individuals and families committee probably will be bringing that topic up, because that impacts the individuals and families more than internal staff, right? So
and I wasn't trying to fix the family problem.
No, yeah.
Saying if that family problem also exists internally, is that part of the survey also?
No, I can hear. I'll just quickly read, because
And if
it's
it
not
isn't,
finalized. I'll just quickly read the questions though. It's
good. It's all good. If it isn't, it isn't. So it's fine.
Yeah, I know. Just to give people context though, it's please describe which role you're in at DDS. What region do you work in? Region or office do you work in? What state technology do you have assigned to you, right? So you can find out if they actually have a computer or a phone or none of that. What's your typical work schedule, right? So are people actually in the office, or are they telecommuting? What does that look like? How do you typically receive communications from DDS management? So does that come from, is that an email, supervisory email, staff meeting, that sort of stuff? So people can select one or all, right? How timely is the communication from management? And then people can provide comments, expand on that. How well do you feel DDS management provides information cross-divisionally, right? So, they might provide information to case management, but not necessarily the same quality or timely information to resource management or something like that, right? And just basically like what's working and what's not working, right? And then kept those open-ended questions. So the real goal is that realizing that there might be a communications issue or there is not a communications issue, and kind of figuring out what's working, what's not working, and try to make everything work, I guess. So I'll stop there. I hope, and Kevin, again, I hope that gives at least a little context of the questions that we asked. So, which my hope is that will help answer all of the questions that Wayne posed for our next topic, our next meetings. So, anything?
This is Princess here, case manager at DDS, and if you guys have any questions too, please feel free, share them. Type them in the comment section so that we can make sure that we add those questions. Or include those in the agenda next time, and make sure that we're adding them the way that you want to see them. But in speaking to the point about some of the issues that folks have with our email system, I certainly don't know a lot about the technicalities of that, but what I do know obviously is that, being a state agency, there's a lot of confidentiality issues. And when we're communicating through our email system about folks and using their personal identifiable information, it has to go through, that level of security and those kinds of things. And so the reply all and the things that we find, that are sometimes frustrating, and that things, these different channels and passwords and things like that, are a necessary frustration in order to protect people's information. So, with understanding that, we kind of have to deal with that and work with the system. We're hoping that it's something that they can improve moving forward. We're really, really hoping that, because as a case manager, that is something that I hear all the time from families, from providers, trying to communicate with us, communicate with the team, and keep everybody informed at the same time. So that is something that is on the radar. But internally, as Kevin mentioned, we don't have that issue. Our information goes, back and forth without any bump in that process. So we're grateful for that.
Yeah, Wayne Seidel with DDS. Yeah, I'm really curious. I'm wondering what the conversation is, and maybe I'll check in from the other group, the individual and family engagement group, about the email issue, because I know it's something that has had the attention of many, and I know that there have been those recent updates, and I would expect improvements. And so I'm really curious to hear from provider and family experience if it is easier now. And so I'm hoping that it is. A lot of those issues that were out there previous were to be resolved. So looking forward to hearing some feedback about that.
And Kevin Bronson at DDS, we Princess and I can bring that up with our co-chairs at the other committee. I believe that we were all on, as co-chairs, we're a part of an advisory committee, and I believe, Peter, if I'm wrong, that's the whole point of the advisory committee. So
Yep, that's correct. This is Peter Mason. That's correct.
So Princess and I will do that and pass that message along. So because that is a good point, and I'm not sure if they actually are talking about that topic or not.
It's Marina again, and I guess that only tangentially, to me, it relates a little bit to what Wayne had said earlier, which is a little, reminds me, it's sort of about how people want to receive their information. And so maybe you guys don't have troubles internally with the email, but maybe it sounded to me like most of the questions asked were about the content of the messages, less about how people like to get messages. And so it reminded me a little bit about decades ago, the product marketing people came up with this concept called integrated direct marketing. And so where they said, wow, I want to sell this product, and so I'm going to make sure that I coordinate, TV ads in your area, and then also you're going to get a postcard in the mail, and at the same time you might get a telemarketing call near that same time. So all of those things would happen, and that will make sure that you definitely don't have a chance to miss out that this new product is coming out. And maybe in that same way, for the people who didn't open their emails because they just don't like email, a poster on the corkboard, or if you have, I don't know, little TV screens in the break rooms going on, maybe that is an opportunity to think about multi-channel communications in a different way.
Yeah, Kevin Bronson again. Yes, fully agree with you. And I don't remember if I mentioned this or not, but we're going to be working with the DDS is in the process of hiring a communications consultant to work with us, me and like the groups to do that exact thing, right? The idea is to, what they're going to help us with is take the information and find out that best way to message it, and how people want to get their information and stuff. So they're not, the communications consultant is not on board yet, but that's the goal. I don't think I mentioned at the beginning, but the hope is to do that, right? But I wanted at least, or Princess and I wanted at least some sort of data to at least start our conversation now. At least we had something to go off of, because I don't know, like you got, just to your whole point, right? Like you guys don't know how we internally communicate. I completely forgot to mention that, right? And I know little stuff too, with only being here for a year and a half. And same thing with, in Princess, all of us, right? We know what we know, and we don't know other store stuff. So that's the hope is to get this data, get the answers, and learn from that.
Yeah, this is Princess, case manager here. I agree. That was the whole point of the survey, coming from case management and resource management, having the experience of working with providers and knowing what providers need, what they struggle with, what information they need to get out to them. And then working from the case manager side, working with families, teams, cross-divisionally as well, with our, upper management and our, our nurses, our clinical folks, our resource managers and those kinds of things. It's important to, feel like I have a really good understanding of how that communication works, what's, missing from that, kind of what we struggle with, what's working for us. And Wayne too, being the director of case management, receives, a lot of that communication, statewide, really. Has a really good handle on communication right now internally. So the case management, resource management, nursing, clinical are really our core divisions within our department that work hand in hand with implementing services, making sure folks are receiving services, really putting the initiatives and all those things into action. So having all of those people included in the survey and getting their feedback as to what's working with our communication right now, what's not working with our communication now. I think that was the main, component that we wanted to or feedback that we wanted to pull from folks and be able to bring back to this committee to say, hey, this is what's working and this is what's not, to give us a starting point here, because that's the whole idea of this committee anyways, is for that information, right? So that gives us a starting point to say, okay, well, this is what the people are saying is working. This is what they're saying is not working for them. This is where some improvements are needed, at least to start with. And then also with us having, the larger umbrella of ARPA, knowing what the initiative is about and what our goal is here as a committee, we can also incorporate what's necessary to get out to folks. So that's kind of the whole point of the survey. I think that's where we started with those questions and why the questions were open-ended, just kind of identifying who we're getting the information out to, or who we're trying to get some feedback from, to answer your question, Wayne, for the who. What we want to know, what's working, what's not working with our communication right now. What do they like? How do they receive the communication? Or do you, are you in the office mostly? Are you mostly working from home? Because that'll determine if, the messages on the cork board are going to be effective. Is anybody going to be in the office really to read them and to be consistent, and also, any other type of information in the, where the communication boards or TV screens or anything like that. We need to know where people are to reach them. How are they accessing this information, if it's working? Not just that, but, folks with their internet, we can send the information out to electronically through email, but, is everybody's flash drive working, as far as the, having internet access and those kind of things. We need to know where are people finding problems otherwise too. So we left it open-ended so they can kind of give us some of that feedback too, that we won't necessarily asking, which is one of the things I thought was helpful. I found helpful too, that people were kind of speaking toward other things we didn't ask about, but, was helpful to hear. What was the other things that we touched on? Just also to the consultant that we're hiring to discuss how people are receiving the info. It'd be interesting to hear what they have to say, what feedback they have. And I'm not so versed on communication, so I was really grateful for Kevin and his background in that, field of communication and getting information out there, and just structuring information. That's helpful to us too. So I'm interested to see what the communication consultant will bring back to us after kind of seeing what we bring to them about the information and what's missing, what needs improvement, and that kind of stuff. So they'll be relying on us to provide them that feedback, so they can help us to kind of make those improvements too as well. So just so you guys know, so far I've been taking notes on the questions that you brought up for the next agenda. And so far I have from Wayne, just to identify who the target demographic is, as far as like the groups that we need to get communication out to, how to get information out to people, what works for them, the who, what, where, whens, and hows. And also to Marina, your multi-channel communication question there. I just put a question mark here because I wanted to make sure that you guys, for the questions that you do have, if you don't mind, if you can put them in the chat, exactly how you want to ask them, so that way we're making sure we're coming back with a proper response, and we're not missing anything. And then the last one was in regards to the communication consultant that we hired. I don't know if anybody had any specific questions there that you wanted to look into, or that we wanted to follow up with as part of the agenda for next time. And then you can let me know if I missed anything else. Kevin, I don't know if you were taking notes. or if anybody had any other
I would like
questions.
Kevin
to
Bronson, no, that's the fun part about having these meetings recorded.
This is
Oh, well,
Peter
there you
Mason.
go.
I just wanted to add in here, I think it would probably be worthwhile for the committee to give an ARPA update at each meeting so that the committee knows where we're at, what's happened to date. And just to keep them informed. It will also help as we start to get these messages. They'll say, oh yeah, we talked about that at the committee and stuff. So I think that would be probably worthwhile to do.
Kevin Bronson, I guess that's why we have an ARPA person on our committee.
Could be.
Wayne Seidel. So I know we're a little bit over on time. To Peter's point, I think that's a great idea. How can you cover all those initiatives in 5 minutes or less? Because it has the potential to take the whole meeting.
Oh yeah.
Right, because
yeah.
there's a lot of amazing things going on. So, and then also just to the last thing that Princess said, questions about the communication consultant, and I do have that question. When are we targeted to have them? Because they would be great to be part of this group.
This is Peter Mason. So we're working through that process. We sent out a version, and now we're trying to see where that ends now, and then but we may have to do like a second version to it. So that's what we're looking at doing. So it's kind of a little delayed from where we thought we would be at this point. So hopefully that will come up a little bit sooner. But it's a delayed for, we thought we would be in place by now, so that is a little delayed. I do have to go, so I will. I'm looking forward to this. I think this is an important committee to make sure that we get the information out correctly to the right people in a mechanism that is as efficient as possible. We're going to be talking about some complicated things, so we need to make sure that we say it in a way that people can understand what we're saying, but also when they look at it, it's not overwhelming. So I look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Kevin Bronson, I just want to, the one last thing I want to mention is that we set these meetings for an hour. I don't know if people want to do it for longer than an hour, but my whole theory is nothing good ever happens after an hour. So
Exactly.
so I think if it sounds like everyone agrees with me, we'll keep these to an hour.
Not unless you bring snacks. Then
Yes. No one can no open up your bags of chips before you come to the meeting, right? So anyways, so I guess the next what we'll do is it sounds like Princess has all the notes compiled. If anyone has any questions or stuff, you either put it, like she mentioned, put it in the chat of this meeting, or feel free to just email us directly. Or email people. What I'll do is, I believe I sent out the last email with, I sent it out so everyone has their email addresses, but I can send maybe an email with the email addresses in the body, just so it's easier for people to send stuff to other committee members. But I think that's probably the best way. I like to just continuously work through, so feel free if you have questions or whatnot, just to email. We'll keep this as a very working committee. And then we'll see everyone on October 4th. So thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
everyone.